The eCom Q4 Summit was created to prove that any seller can experience a highly profitable fourth quarter with access to the right tips, strategies, and techniques. There's no need to struggle trying to figure out what to sell, where to find it, or how much to list it for. The summit covers everything from sourcing to listing to marketing and streamlining your operations. It doesn't matter if you're selling on one platform or multiple platforms like Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Walmart. And it doesn't matter if you're a new seller or an experienced seller. The information in the summit will help you get sale after sale after sale after sale during the busiest shopping season of the year, if you take massive action. So welcome to the eCom Q4 Summit.
Hello, everyone. This is Pauline Prince with the Canada Strategy. Really excited to be part of this eCom Seller Summit and have some great information for you, whether you're currently selling in North America, maybe you're just selling in the United States, maybe you've already expanded into Canada and you are facing what many of us are facing, which is a lot of changes in this post-COVID-19 pandemic environment. The supply chain has encountered some real challenges, and with every challenge, there are opportunities. And so I'm very excited to present some pertinent information to you, whether or not you're currently selling online or whether you're just about to start. You cannot forget that North America is one of the best, if not the best markets as a continent to be selling online. And I know many of us have spent our time very focused on the United States, specifically in North America, when just to the north of the US, there is a wonderful country by the name of Canada that is an excellent marketplace for online retail. Again, my name is Pauline Prince. Just a little background on myself. I have a 21-year corporate career behind me, and I've been full-time in business for myself since 2016, late 2016, early 2017. I do have a lot of experience selling on Amazon. I started in the US in 2014. Expanded into Amazon Canada in 2016. And in 17, I added the Amazon Europe cluster. I do have a Amazon Australia account as well, but I actually never activated it to send any products to Australia. It was a brand new Amazon marketplace, and I know it started to do some good things since then. So as always, you'll notice in eCom that expanding internationally, excuse me, is quite viable. Excuse me. I'm also the founder of Canada Prep and Fulfillment with locations in Toronto as well as Vancouver here in Canada. And Canada Prep and Fulfillment is absolutely the center pillar in supporting expansion within North America of your e-commerce, especially your expansion into Canada, if you aren't already selling in Canada. Now, for many of you, you may be wondering, why Canada? You have a lot of questions in your mind. Here's one of the biggest reasons. Because it's now harder and harder to make decent profits selling on Amazon US. Many of you started your e-commerce journey with Amazon. And I would say 95% of you started that journey with Amazon in the United States. Whether or not you live in the United States yourself, the US is the premier Amazon marketplace. And so the vast majority of the seller focus tends to be on the US to tap into that wonderful US consumer base. So it all makes sense. But what you probably have encountered if you are an experienced seller in the US, specifically on Amazon, is that there's been higher and higher levels of competition amongst sellers in recent years. And it just gets stiffer and stiffer. There's race to the bottom price wars. That's just the norm now on .com. There's a large population of sellers that have identical access to retail and online arbitrage source products. So for many of us, we start our e-commerce journey doing retail arbitrage or online arbitrage. And even if we expand into wholesale products sourcing, we do find that with all of the sellers attempting to do the same, it is more and more a challenge to get access to those wholesale accounts. So you may call a wholesaler and they may feel, okay, we've opened enough wholesale accounts for merchants that intend to sell our products on Amazon US. So they won't open an account for you. That's happening more and more. So what we have found is that it takes more and more innovation to make money on Amazon.com. And to make matters worse, that innovation is often short-lived. So maybe you were selling a product that you found a way to customize in some way. Maybe you did a multi-pack, or you created a product bundle, or maybe even you have some sort of special insert or sticker or something that makes your offer unique. But usually what happens, it's really just a matter of time before other sellers match what you've done, jump on that same listing, and here you have the price war starting on this innovated offer that you had created. So thankfully you would have made some decent profits for a period of time, but what often happens, those profits are short-lived as long as there are other sellers on the listing that are not willing to match your price and just share the buy box. One of the other things that have made it more and more difficult to make profits on Amazon.com is the increasingly restrictive Amazon policies that are impacting sellers. So Amazon's doing a lot of changes. Some of it is driven by this pandemic response, but they were becoming restrictive even before that. So I think one of the things people have seen quite a bit is compliance related documentation that Amazon is demanding that you as a seller provide for products that you have been selling on .com. So suddenly you may have a very steadily selling item. Now you have to double back and find a supply source that will provide you with the documentation that Amazon is requesting. And in the meantime, Amazon is stranded the inventory that you may have. They may have gone as far as to completely deactivate, disable, and delete the listing that you were selling on. And so until you provide that documentation, you would not be able to get that offer active again. The net result of so many sellers on Amazon US is that your profit margins have been under severe pressure. You're wondering, oh my goodness, how do I make the kind of money I used to be making with my US Amazon business? Now, in my observation, one of the reasons that this has become the reality on Amazon.com, your experience has been where your profits have been slowly and steadily decreasing, declining. I think the strongest reasons for this is because you're sourcing your products from the same place as all the other sellers. and you're also selling those same products on the marketplace that all those other sellers are selling it on. So if you're only tapping into US based suppliers that really pretty well all other sellers have access to, and you're going to retail those products on a marketplace that all those sellers have access to, you'll never get away from your competition. There's no way to distance yourself from them. So the questions are, have you considered selling on other platforms? Have you considered selling on Walmart.com, third-party selling on Walmart.com, or any other marketplace, right? I know many of you are familiar with eBay for some of your products. Maybe Etsy makes sense. Perhaps you would consider selling on your own Shopify store. There's a whole lot of other marketplaces that you can tap into, whether that may be Facebook or Instagram. I know that, of course, it really depends on the product. And you're also having to consider the degree of spend you have to make on marketing to get your product really getting some traffic on those platforms. But either way, right, the low hanging fruit here, have you considered selling in the Canadian marketplace? Still Amazon, but Amazon Canada. For those of you selling on Walmart, this is not just a Amazon focused discussion at all. For those of you selling on Walmart in the US, have you considered opening a Walmart Canada account? And even more so, have you considered finding product sources in Canada? Think about it. For every wholesaler or distributor that exists for a major branded product, or even some smaller brands of products, the distributor in the United States has more than likely a counterpart in Canada that does distribution of the same items. Have you considered maybe contacting the US based distributor or wholesaler and asking them, who's your distributor or wholesaler of this product for Canada? I'd like to reach out to them. They'll happily provide you with that information. What I'm trying to get at a high level is that expansion is definitely, international expansion without a doubt is a very true solution to the problems that you've encountered in terms of declining profits in the US marketplace. And contrary to what you may be thinking in your mind, it's not as hard as you think. Again, I know that we are initially focusing our examples, our scenarios on Amazon, but what I'm saying really is applicable regardless of the marketplace, the platform that you're working with. For example, many of you are very familiar with Walmart selling as a third-party seller on Walmart in the US. And so you're going to extrapolate a lot of this when you're considering Walmart Canada. But if you're not even selling on Amazon or Walmart, and there's other marketplaces that you're wanting to leverage, what I'm saying in this presentation applies to those marketplaces as well. But using Amazon as the example here, for many of you, because Amazon is really, I think, the most frequently used starting point for e-commerce, where you're leveraging another brand's product and just reselling it. In North America, I don't know if you realize this, but you actually have a North America account for which you're paying that $39.99 or similar price per month subscription to Amazon as a professional selling account. You may have started with Amazon US as the account that you have defined with a charge method, a deposit method, and you have your address defined. And so you're actively selling using your Amazon US store. But you may not realize that what you just have right there in front of you as well is your Amazon Canada store and your Amazon Mexico store. You may just not have activated those stores by adding your deposit method, your charge method, and confirming your address for those accounts, and just activating those so that you can start offering product on those marketplaces as well. Furthermore, what even fewer people realize is that you can convert your North America account to an America's account, and that will therefore include South America and the marketplace as of this moment in the Americas cluster, besides the US, Canada, and Mexico, is Brazil. Well, I do understand that they recently just added another marketplace. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's Amazon Jamaica. I know that you'll probably be hearing from another presenter in this summit that will explain that to a much better degree than I can. But what that means is that for the same subscription, you could expand to also include Amazon Brazil and any other marketplaces that Amazon is adding in this hemisphere. Hopefully that's the correct terminology on this side of the globe anyway, let me put it that way. So Amazon Brazil, I think is going to be a huge opportunity. It's Amazon has not promoted it. It's just been actively there, open for third-party sellers to sell physical product for a little while now. Great market and a lot of opportunity. So I think you'll probably start hearing more and more about it and other marketplaces on, again, this side of the globe, outside of the North America continent and into Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. So what I want you to do is to expand your thinking as well as your business beyond Amazon US. And I challenge you to start with Canada. And this is my challenge to you, whether you yourself live in North America or not. Wherever you may live in the world, you have, this is all about what e-commerce is about, you have the capability to sell on marketplaces in faraway countries. So no matter where you are in the world, you may be selling on Amazon US, expand into Canada is my challenge. That's my challenge to you. Now, your expansion is not just about Q4. It's not just about a certain season of the year. You can expand into Canada for year-round results. And what we have discovered in the massive spike in e-commerce activity in the wake of COVID-19, it's not going to go away. The volumes, the demand that's there from consumers who want to purchase online and have products delivered directly to their homes or their places of business has gone through the roof. And that is not going to diminish. We always knew that e-commerce and online retail, online purchasing were in the early days, and we're just going to have a steady climb over the years. Well, COVID-19 pandemic really caused the climb we expected to be just a steady incline to be a huge spike. And the good thing about it is that spike is probably not going to go back down. It's only up from here continually. What has to happen in the supply chain is that entities like Amazon, people like you and I, we have to make the adjustments for the suddenness of this spike. And we have to adjust for the responses that companies like Amazon and others have had in the wake of that spike. So we can't just stand still and think if we do what we have been doing for months or years before this pandemic, or since the pandemic started, we have to continue to adjust. And that's the reality of doing business in any one country, but definitely that's true when you're doing business internationally. So, no matter what the realities are in the supply chain currently, there are solutions. And I will be covering the clear solution for what you're currently facing as you are either launching your business in this environment or you're hoping to scale your business in the present environment. Okay, so let's just quickly double back and talk about Canada and the Canadian consumer. For those of you that have listened to one of my presentations before, then you already know this. But it's worth pointing out. The Canadian population is small compared to the United States. Yes, we're only 10% of the US population, but guess what? Canada is a larger land area than the United States. So that means that small population, right, relatively speaking, is dispersed throughout the country. What that means is that you have big pockets of population in our big cities that are closer to the US border, yes, but then the rest of the population is spread throughout the country. Why is that relevant? Well, think, right? If you live nowhere near a Walmart or some of these big box stores that we've come to depend on, then there's a lot of product that you don't have access to physically walk into a brick and mortar store and find. So you are very, very welcoming of buying online, and you would therefore have a tendency to be willing to also pay for shipping, right? Because guess what? If you live in relatively rural or far flung location here in Canada, it may very well cost a little more for Canada Post to get that product to you or for UPS to get that product to you. So as a country here in Canada, we have been accustomed to paying for shipping. And that's really relevant, especially relevant if you are maybe a Walmart seller, or you have Amazon merchant fulfill offers, or you have your Shopify store or any other platform where you are trying to fulfill your customer orders, of course, directly to the customer from whatever point of origin that you are using, whether you're shipping it from the United States or you have a fulfillment service here in Canada that will be shipping to your customers for you. It's important to understand Canadians are not afraid of paying for shipping. We have not become quite as spoiled as our US cousins who think everything should be shipped to them for free. So make note of that. Canadians have brand awareness of all of the brands that our US counterparts do. In Canada here, we have not just Canadian TV channels, we also have all of the US ones. So we see the same advertising, the same marketing is hitting us as well. So historically, we've been exposed to the same products. So if you are experienced and have a feel for what US consumers want, you can easily extrapolate that to what Canadians would want. We want the similar things. Canadians also have similar holidays and traditions because Canada is populated by the same groups of people and more so than the United States. Canada is even more culturally diverse than the United States. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. We have, again, all the same holidays and then some. So, because we do have more holidays than in the United States. One of the key things to realize here in terms of profit making as a seller, when you're selling in Canada, we have a stronger tolerance for higher prices. Why is that? Because we are a smaller population, it also means that industry here, though tremendous, is still not sufficient to produce all of the products that we want. So the US has imports from outside of the United States to satisfy the desires of its consumer base. Here in Canada, we have the same thing and even more so. So we have a high level of product imports. And by importing products, it naturally causes that product or commodity to be more expensive because there's a cost to importing, that there's transport, there's duties and taxes, etc. But if nothing else makes sense about that, when you have demand that's unmet, so this is simple economics, demand that's unmet, and you have low supply in a market, that puts an upward pressure on price. And that's the reality in Canada. When I talk to sellers that are used to selling only in the United States, or much of their experience with the North America population is in the United States, usually whatever price you have in your mind to sell your product at when you're shifting it from only selling in the US to also sell in Canada, whatever price you have in your mind is usually way lower than what it could sell for. So in Canada, that is. So that means that something, for example, that you would sell for $19.99 in the United States, as my suggestion, I would not start that at $19.99. If you account for your exchange rate alone, you would be needing to sell that somewhere more along the lines of like $25, $26 in Canada. But that's just to match the exchange rate. It's not accounting for the extra effort it took to get it there. So that product would happily sell in Canada for at least $29.99, $35.99, $39.99. So it can be something you would think no one would pay this higher price for, but that is the reality. Really, the Canadian marketplace is full of perfect candidates for Amazon Prime membership. And so there are, of course, a lot of Prime members. Excellent, therefore, for sellers to leverage Amazon FBA. But here's the kicker. A lot of people are overlooking the opportunity to fulfill your Amazon fulfilled by Amazon offers or your other e-commerce customer orders. Again, whether that's Walmart.ca, whether it's eBay orders from Canadian customers, whether it's your Shopify store. But if your order needs to be fulfilled to a Canadian address, you definitely need to understand how to do that. Yeah. So, selling in Canada. There are barriers to enter the Canadian market. There's barriers to enter any other country than the one you're currently in or the one that you're currently selling in. There's always a hurdle to enter into a marketplace. Canada's no different. But what happens is people tend to get very overwhelmed by that fact and feel, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to figure it out. And it's too big a hurdle, right? That's actually great. You know why? Because it produces lower competition, right? The more barriers there are to entry, or the higher the barriers to entry, the less likely there are going to be other competitors that are willing to enter. So what that means is whether it's Amazon or it's Walmart or it's any of these other marketplaces in Canada, or even your own Shopify store for Canada, regardless, you're just going to be facing lower competition. And that truly is what's happening now. And that means there's lower product supply. Supply low, demand is there, demand is high, upward pressure on price. So I use the example of Amazon Canada. So the reality is there's few or no FBA sellers, or no Canada-based FBM fulfilled by merchant offers on listings on Amazon Canada. So where in the US, a listing would have perhaps 10 to 20 FBA offers and maybe a handful of FBM offers. In Canada, there are a lot of listings that simply have no sellers at all. Then you may see, and we're, as word gets out, you may see one seller. Maybe there's a very popular item and there'll be 5 or 7 sellers, but that's a mix of FBA and FBM. And you'll notice that most of the FBM offers are US based sellers who, to justify the extra expense of fulfilling the order directly from the United States, have a really super inflated price. So if you instead were a Canada-based offer, where meaning your inventory is already in Canada and it's going to ship directly to the customer from there, you could offer a much more attractive price and actually be on level with the FBA offers if there are any. Either way, there's just way fewer sellers and therefore higher selling prices, higher profit margins. It's important to note that without there being a Canada-based offer, whether that's FBA or FBM, buyers are less likely to purchase. So you could very well see all of these listings that have no rank, or the rank seems awful by Amazon.com standards. Well, you have to look at the history. Has this item been in stock in the past? Has this item stayed in stock for any length of time? Because that's the other thing. There may be sellers and then that seller goes out of stock. The rank gets worse until someone comes back in stock on this thing. It's going to look bad, like no one wants this item, and that's not true. So one of the most important things to consider for selling in the Canadian marketplace is not a metric like the bestseller rank on an Amazon listing. That is not the driver alone that you should make sourcing decisions on. You need to look at, is this product desirable? And like I said, you use the US marketplace as your beginning guide. So when you test, and I suggest that you test a specific product or group of products to sell on the Canadian market, then you're going to gain more knowledge now. You've used the US as maybe your starting point guide. Now you're going to add knowledge you gain from testing the Canadian marketplace. The US experience is a strong guide, a strong indication, but you're going to test your product in Canada as well. All right. Sourcing in Canada. You can do retail arbitrage or online arbitrage sourcing in Canada. There's, of course, if you're selling on Amazon, for example, you can source from walmart.ca. And we still have Toys R Us here in Canada. We also have a ton of other online retail options. And I'll point you to sourcing lists that are available on my prep and fulfillment company's website, Canada Prep and Fulfillment, that will point you to over 100 online retailers and also wholesalers and manufacturers. So to the next point, what about doing some wholesale sourcing like I talked about earlier? find out who the wholesaler or distributor is for a product that you may be familiar with in the US. Maybe you do that as your starting point. But the truth is, there are wholesalers, distributors aplenty here in Canada. And what we've done is we've also provided a list of such via the Canada Prep and Fulfillment website. Now, you have to be registered on canadaprepandfulfillment.com in order to access those lists. And again, I'll point more information about that later on in the presentation. Maybe you have a private label brand or want to establish a private label brand. You may also want to, one, consider looking at Canadian manufacturing sources. But what I think most of you would more likely do is import to Canada from whatever factories you're using elsewhere in the world. So maybe you have a China factory that is producing your private label products. To bring it into Canada in small quantities, you can certainly ship directly anywhere in Canada. But in this case, I'd be suggesting you're utilizing Canada Prep and Fulfillment. You can ship to our warehouse locations in Toronto or Vancouver. However, important to note, if you are bringing in any degree of quantity of product, maybe you're bringing in, palletized shipments using, container shipping, all of that. Canada has a West Coast. Just north of Seattle, Washington, we have Vancouver, Canada. And so much of the Asia Pacific Rim sourced shipments arrive in the Vancouver port. That's usually the most economical way to enter Canada from Asia. But again, private label is definitely something that should be investigated here as well. Because absolutely private label sellers are definitely kind of clustered up, packed up on the US market. Canada, nowhere near as much. So this means you can import to Canada to sell in Canada. You can import to Canada to fulfill your Canadian customer orders, right? You can ship from within Canada, so you can ship from within Canada. I'm sorry, the little one has decided to enter the room. My apologies. You can ship from within Canada. So that means you can source your products from a supplier here in Canada to sell in Canada. So, my apologies, I had to try to quiet her. Okay, so you can export from Canada. This means that you can source your products from Canadian suppliers. And, or maybe it's merchandise that you brought into Canada from Asia and you decided, realized, hey, I can send some of this product into the US to sell. So you just had one point of entry into Canada to satisfy multiple marketplaces. You can export from Canada to sell in the United States. And happily, the US Customs has a very economical means by which you can do that. So because of the treaty between Canada and the US, for exports from Canada into the United States, you do have an opportunity to waive duties and taxes going in that direction. It's important to note it's exports from Canada to the United States. On the flip side, imports into Canada from the US do not enjoy the same special treaty provisions that have been put in place for product leaving Canada and going to the US. So you're probably also wondering, what should I sell in Canada? Well, everything. Everything is that's in supply in demand is usually in short supply, right? This is true. This was true before the pandemic, and definitely since the response that we've experienced here, it's definitely true. As you were aware, Amazon here in Canada has struggled. The demand has been so great, they ran out of fulfillment center space. So they're in a scramble to build more fulfillment centers much more quickly than their pre-pandemic plans. So there is a demand for everything. And as I said before, you're going to use your knowledge of what you know about the United States and consumer demand there, and perhaps what you already know about Amazon.com to be the kickoff point for your Amazon.ca store. Use what you know about the US and your Walmart.com store to get yourself kicked off, expanded, excuse me, is the better term, expanded into Walmart Canada for your Walmart Canada store. Canadian retailers get the short end of the stick when it comes to the distribution of products. So we, hands down, in our physical brick and mortar, have less product variety and less supply in terms of quantity than our US counterparts. And because the population is so much lower here, yes, that would seem to make sense in terms of the supply and the variety. However, this is the same population that is exposed to the same advertising. So we've gotten all the product awareness, brand awareness, and Canadians do, in general, I'm speaking, have a higher disposable income, and apparently a greater willingness to spend that money. And so there is the demand that is backed by actual sales activity, as long as the product is available. And that's the crux of the problem, right? Is the supply isn't here. And that's where you come in. You can be part of that solution to bring some supply where there is demand. One thing to remember, like I said, we do have the similar holidays, but please keep in mind this one difference that's very pivotal to your Q4 plans for Canada. Thanksgiving in Canada is in October. It's in early October. Why is that important? Not only is that about providing product for Thanksgiving related festivities earlier, and again, Thanksgiving is pretty well identical here in Canada to what you have in the United States, except we do have a habit here of having what is the traditional US Thanksgiving with the turkey, the stuffing, etc. But we also, in that Thanksgiving celebration, include, from whatever culture we may originate, we also include other dishes that represent our own cultures. So that means, you know, if your family is originally from Italy, you probably have some Italian dishes mixed into your Thanksgiving celebration, along with what is considered traditional American Thanksgiving foods, right? Why is that important for me to tell you that? It means that when you're considering grocery items that you may want to sell in Canada, you have to think that a very culturally diverse population, and the kind of spices and seasonings and dry goods and other food products, consumable products that would be consumed very consistently need to be supplied here as well. So if you have a Mexican heritage, But you have to think that there are Mexican population here in Canada as well. Well, Canada's a long way away from that Mexican border. So guess what? There isn't a lot of Mexican products making their way all the way here that's sitting in our brick and mortar stores. And definitely, if they're in some of those stores, it's low variety. And those brick and mortar stores are only in the big city centers, which there's only a handful. What about everyone else that's spread throughout the country, whether they're Mexican themselves or they just enjoy Mexican food and want to buy those items, right? Canada is very culturally diverse, and we take part in all the other cultures. So I may be from one part of the world, but I enjoy the foods and experience the food from all these other places on a regular basis. So it's not just the size of the Mexican population here, it's whoever else likes to cook Mexican food or experience Mexican food products, in my example. So I'm trying to help you to think, right? What can I sell? There has to be all of this demand here that's unmet. No one else is thinking about it. Like, why don't you think about it? So here we have Thanksgiving in October. It's followed by Halloween in October. And what do Canadians have to think about after that? We don't have a holiday in November that everyone's focused on. That means that for Q4 here in Canada, soon as Halloween is over, everyone's completely focused on Christmas. That's shopping for Christmas, for decorating home, interior and exterior, lawn ornaments, decor that goes on the exterior of homes, inside the home, Christmas tree, Christmas ornaments, gifts. You still have Black Friday coming. Canada doesn't have a Black Friday ourselves. We may participate in the US Black Friday, which we do, but we don't have our equivalent to Black Friday until the day after Christmas, which we call Boxing Day on December 26th. So all of this is important information that I'm saying, hey, when you're thinking about what to sell, you have to think beyond, okay, this is what I do in the US. You have to think, okay, this is a population that's similar, but this population has demand but low supply. What do I supply? I'm telling you, supply everything, but you don't have to stay in the same product areas as everyone else. You can really find some beautiful product niches by thinking about who lives there and what would they want, right? I'm really challenging you that way. And I think if you just start thinking along those lines, you can find some incredible pockets, like niches of products. You don't even have to go far, stretch wide. You can stay in a pocket, a niche, and really get some strong testing and great results, and then take it from there. I'm really not kidding you when I say the sky is the limit. You can do RAOA wholesale. You can access manufacturing here in Canada. Think about products that are in demand that are just not available unless they're specially imported, right? That's really a lot of the products that are here in Canada. Literally, so much is imported. Just doing your normal analysis. Like I said, whether you are selling on Amazon, Walmart, you have your own Shopify store, you have your own other e-commerce marketplace or platform that you're leveraging. If you start just thinking about, okay, what can I sell? And then you take it the next step. Like I said here, something that's in demand. You have popular products that may not be profitable on your .com market, like maybe that's walmart.com or it's amazon.com. Check out the .ca version of that, the .ca counterpart, which is the Canadian marketplace for that store, that marketplace. I'll use eBay as an example. If any of you are eBay sellers, eBay doesn't have a .com versus .ca instance. It's all eBay. However, choose any product you can think of, even one you may already be selling. Do a search in eBay. The vast majority, if not 98% of the offers of that product are being shipped from the United States because those sellers are based in the United States, right? Canadians, when they come to eBay to shop, realize, okay, I have to buy from a US based seller. That's just the reality by and large. What if you also had offers for products on eBay that were in Canada, and therefore the Canadians that come to that come to ebay.com and they search, they'll realize, oh my gosh, I can get this shipped from within Canada. It'll get to me in a couple of days, 2 to 4 days, depending on where they live in the country. And I'm not dealing with customs duties and taxes. I'm not dealing with, the long wait. Oh my goodness, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to buy from your Canada-based offer. So something, and right, much of the pricing that you have, much of the pricing that has been for shipping in the US, you could literally take a good chunk of that and add that to the price you would set in Canadian dollars for the Canadian offer, and you make even more profit. So there's products that may already be in the .ca catalog, but there's no offers. I know this is even happening, definitely happening on Amazon, but it's even worse on Walmart, for example, because Walmart Canada is so new, and they're trying to build up their third-party seller community. Definitely on Amazon, they are still in a struggle to have consistent product supply provided by sellers on that marketplace. Maybe you have a hot product, but there's tremendous competition in the US on it. What about with lower competition, or if none, on Canada? Why don't you sell that in the Canadian marketplace? Maybe you are restricted, or there's some sort of compliance issue or restrictive policy in place on the products in the US. Why not sell it in Canada? So I know, probably getting excited, but you still have some questions lurking in your mind. Definitely the questions people always ask center around regulations. So the regulatory requirements to sell in Canada. This is whether you live in the United States or you live elsewhere in the world. To sell in Canada, your business, regardless of where your business is based, so where your business was registered, you will need to get a Canada business number if you're going to do imports or exports from Canada. If you were just sourcing from Canadian suppliers, then you're fine, right? You won't need the Canada business number immediately as a new seller. And that points to bullet point number 2 below this. But if you plan on importing product into Canada, you're going to need to get the Canada business number. And again, that's one of the things that we can help you with. I'll talk more about that later in the presentation. So when you do need a Canada business number, for sure, is when you need to register for sales tax and business corporate tax. For Canada, that registration is optional until your sales exceed $30,000 Canadian when you look at your prior 4 calendar quarters of sales activity. So for imports, if you're going to be doing imports into Canada, you're going to need to get your Canada business number immediately. If you're not doing any imports to Canada then, and your business isn't Canadian, then you will you can wait until you reach the 30,000 Canadian threshold before you are expected to register for sales tax and for corporate tax here in Canada. So many other questions, right? How do I register for Amazon Canada, Walmart Canada? Well, we talked about that. If you are an existing Amazon seller, say for example in the US, your Canada account is behind the scenes already there. You just need to actually activate it. And to activate it, you're providing a deposit method, charge method in your Canada store settings, and you're also confirming the address. Your address will be your address from wherever you are in the world. So if you're based in the US, your address is still that address, even in your Canada store. If you're based in the UK, your address in your Canada store is still your UK address. Um, of course, you will build out your Canada store with other shipping addresses, but that address that I'm referring to on your account profile is all about you as a person. Where's your address? Where are you based? Walmart Canada. I'm not an expert in registering for Walmart Canada. I know there are other presenters that are in this summit that will explain that way better. But I will point you to them in this case to navigate the Walmart Canada registration. But definitely my services under Canada Prep and Fulfillment, we definitely would be here to support your Walmart Canada account opening in terms of supporting some of the questions that they may have of you and your ability to fulfill to your Canada-based customers. Again, we are here to also help with that. And so you would likely want to engage with somebody with boots on the ground here in Canada in your Walmart Canada journey. Registration with the Canadian government, that's for your Canada business number. Like I said, for the imports, that's something that we provide you the information and the guidance on as well when you're using Canada Prep and Fulfillment to run or operate your business here in Canada. And you may be also wondering, how do you get your products to or from Canada? Like, how do you pull that off? Like, you're not even in Canada, or maybe you're not even in the United States. How on earth do I make all of that happen? Well, I'm going to tell you. Now, to start with, absolutely what we're focusing on with your international expansion is the US and expanding into Canada. On this slide, I'm challenging you, because so many of you are already selling on Amazon US, I'm challenging you to expand to Amazon Canada as well. All your other expansions within North America to Mexico and outside of North America into South America or the Caribbean will seem less daunting once you've taken the first step to expand into at least one other marketplace. Because Canada is such an easy expansion, it really is the best way to cut your teeth, right, on this, to teeth on this. So expand your business. Use your Amazon seller app. What products are you selling right now? What products can you think of, even if you're not currently selling them? Toggle between your US store and your Canada store and just do product searches. You can use your seller app to do that. And I'm using Amazon as the focal point here because that's the easiest way to explain. Look at all Amazon product categories, all of them. A lot of people, we focus on things like toys, we focus on grocery, but what about automotive? What about office supplies? What about lawn and garden, like home, like kitchen? You may think that, a lot of people really focus on those. No, they don't. Not for Amazon Canada, they don't. Um, all of these categories are wide open. Grocery and toys are not tapped out by any stretch of the imagination, by any stretch. Baby, of course, is not. Now, you probably hit more compliance related stuff in a category like baby, only because naturally, right? There's a lot of safeguards in place to protect babies in terms of the product and certain compliance requirements. Um, but there's so many product categories that are largely ignored. But even the ones that get a lot of love, there's nowhere near enough sellers to cover the breadth of the catalog. I'm just saying, don't make assumptions, do some research. Go ahead and check out, in this case, Amazon Canada, amazon.ca. Just make it a routine so you see it for yourself. I can guarantee you're going to be shocked at some of the pricing that you're seeing. Um, the prices are way higher. And you may think no one's paying this. Yes, they are. So um, it's incredible. It's a wide open marketplace, and the profit margins really will blow your mind. I've done prior presentations for past summits, which I certainly suggest that you check out, where I actually present examples of products, how they're priced in Canada and how they're selling, and you're seeing the kind of profits that are being made. But for this expansion, I'm putting it on the table that you allow Canada Prep and Fulfillment to help smooth the way for you and streamline your business. So as I mentioned before, Canada Prep and Fulfillment has 2 locations here in Canada. We have Toronto and we have Vancouver. Toronto is located in central Canada, neighboring New York State as well as Michigan State. So we're in the Great Lakes area. Vancouver, British Columbia, is north of Washington State in the US. And therefore, that's the west coast of Canada, with beautiful access to that Asia Pacific rim. So our shipment assistance allows you to navigate what can be a complex arena, the import and export arena. We've smoothed that path out for you. We've spent a lot of effort to minimize the cost. We've taken the hassle out of the process. So our services are going to allow you to automate your international expansion. So I challenge you to go hands-free, source in Canada, do online arbitrage, access wholesale suppliers. You can establish relationships even with manufacturers here in Canada. You can order from suppliers here and direct those orders to one of the Canada Prep and Fulfillment locations, one of our warehouses. And we'll handle, if you're using Amazon FBA, the prep, pack, and ship to Amazon for you. We can also store your inventory for pick, pack, and ship directly to your customers, whether you're using Amazon FBM or some other e-commerce marketplace direct to customer orders like Walmart, for example. The products you're sourcing in Canada, you can either sell in Canada or, like I've mentioned, you can export them to sell in the United States. So, import to Canada to sell in Canada is another option. So, you can do retail arbitrage or online arbitrage sourcing in the United States to have that inventory imported to Canada to sell here in Canada. We have in both the West as well as Central Canada, we have counterpart US warehouses where we have our clients ship their US sourced inventory, and then we do the import from there. So that means you can place orders with US based suppliers that will ship often for free, right? That's a domestic US shipment to our US pickup addresses. And then we will do the pickup and import to Canada. And it will be, of course, delivered to one of our warehouses, whether that's in Toronto or Vancouver. And we'll take whatever action is needed after that, whether that's an Amazon prep, going to Amazon FBA, or it's storing the inventory for fulfillment of future direct to customer orders or fulfilled by merchant Amazon orders. So what that does is there's a lot of hands-free elements, right, to this expansion. You just need to get adept at researching and sourcing products, placing your orders, and then just notifying us of the shipments that you've initiated. Now, one of the most pivotal things that is now a reality for us here in North America and definitely in Canada, if we're talking about Amazon facilities here in Canada are over capacity. Pardon me one moment. My apologies. This is one of the realities of our pandemic in times, right? Is the little ones. And we're all in the same space. Okay, so Amazon Canada facilities are over capacity. And what caused this is the massive spike in online retail demand, way beyond what Amazon Canada projected in its facilities build plans. They've been left flat-footed. They're over capacity. They had to force sellers to try to get inventory out of the Amazon fulfillment centers. And also, they severely restricted storage limits. And to make matters worse, and you've seen this in the US if you're selling on Amazon US, they have restricted at the ASIN level as well. So fulfillment center capacity issues have not only triggered saying, hey, instead of having unlimited quantity that you can send into an FBA warehouse, you have to limit at a ASIN level, so the product level. So you may have been sending an unlimited quantity of your widget in up until now. Well, now Amazon Canada is likely telling you you can only send in 20 units of that at any one time. Amazon is only willing for you to have 20 units either at their fulfillment center or inbound to their fulfillment center. That is severely restrictive. And what that has done is that has pulled a rug out from underneath your sales if you're already selling in Canada. So the awful truth is that until Amazon builds more fulfillment centers here, which they have them in build right now, understanding the situation they're in, that's still going to take many, many months, if not years, for them to try to reach the capacity that's really demanded now. And my suspicion is they will not quickly relax the limits that they put in place, if ever those limits will be fully lifted. So, solution, really, if you're already selling in Amazon Canada in this example, to reestablish your prior sales volumes, or to scale from where you are to sell even more than you're doing, you must do both FBA and FBM. If Amazon is saying you can only send 20 units of a product in to sell FBA as an FBA offer, and you previously were selling 20 units per day, 20 units in total for the cycle it takes for product to ship to Amazon, be received in by Amazon, get sold, and therefore get released, and then you ship another set, that cycle, your sales have gone into the floor. If you sell fulfilled by merchant as well, your merchant fulfill offer is running at the same time your FBA offer is running. That means that as long as your merchandise, that inventory is sitting in Canada at a fulfillment partner, right? Then they can fill your FBM orders for you. And if you have whatever quantity you have in storage in with that fulfillment service, you'd be able to continue your sales volume levels. You would just need to, of course, match your FBM offer pricing with any FBA offers that are existing. And what we have seen is the FBM offers get their time in the sun, they get their time in the Amazon buy box as well. In a nutshell, you have to have both FBA and FBM going at the same time to reestablish the sales volumes you had been enjoying before all of this crazy stuff happened in the aftermath of the pandemic and Amazon's restrictions. And definitely to scale your business, you're going to have to do both in parallel. And to do that, you're going to need boots on the ground in Canada. And here we are. Canada Prep and Fulfillment can help you with both of those things. Export to the United States. Again, we talked about this, buy in Canada, sell in the United States. I pointed out that US Customs has allowance, which allows the waiver of duties and taxes on exports from Canada to the US. So the prime example people leverage for this is to source products from Canadian suppliers that they're going to sell on Amazon.com. Why would they do that? Why is there an opportunity for that? Well, there's products that are sold here in Canada that are not readily available in the US or not available at all in the US because they're not made there. So a lot of products like that, maybe it's a same product, but there's some ingredient difference that makes it unique. So the Canadian version of it is what is in high demand in the US, with few sellers able to offer that product because they'd have to source it from the Canadian supply. And anytime people have to go a little step extra or a big step extra, they won't. That's the typical seller. So don't be the typical seller. Look at sourcing products in Canada that would allow you to sell on Amazon.com with great profit margins. And what Canada Prep and Fulfillment does is we'll take delivery of the products that you sourced from your Canadian supplier. We will prep your FBA boxes, the products and the boxes. They'll be transported cross border to a US drop-off location in the United States. And from there, it's an Amazon partnered carrier rated shipment. So It's very smooth, very efficient, very economical to source in Canada, sell in the United States. So I'm going to point you to our website. I mentioned it before, canadaprepandfulfillment.com. Check us out. Look at the information that is there. Like I said, with our 2 locations in Toronto and Vancouver, we have shared administration. You can choose whichever location. You don't have to just stick with one. Wherever your products are being shipped from, choose the location that is closest to that. If your products are being shipped directly to a certain spot here in Canada, maybe you find that most of your customer orders are coming from perhaps areas that are closest to Toronto. Maybe then you would store your products in our Toronto warehouse, and we're fulfilling to your customers that are ordering from you in that part of the country. So get started. Visit our website, canadaprepandfulfillment.com. Register with us. It's free. Tap into the seller resources that you will only see once you've registered on our website. Tap into the seller resources. You're going to see sourcing lists there that will help kick off your analysis. I also ask that you review and follow the step-by-step overview instructions that we have also available on the website. A lot of the how do I do this is covered in that step-by-step overview. So please click on those. Import to Canada, ship from within Canada, export from Canada. Those are the various step-by-step overviews that are there. So please read through those. You ultimately will be also submitting your shipment initiation request on our website. It's an online form, and that way you're letting us know, hey, I'm shipping this into this particular location.
Just put a dark timer on.
All right. So I'm challenging you to grow your business with us. We are definitely here to help you. So sourcing your products from the same places as everyone else to sell on the same marketplace as everyone else produces frustration, higher competition, low profit margins. Expand your thinking, expand your business beyond just Amazon.com. Start with Canada. So I'm so glad that you guys have attended this session with this eCom Seller Summit. I hope that a lot of the information here has been helpful to you. Challenge you again to visit our website at canadaprepandfulfillment.com. There's additional information out there. Email us at info@canadaprepandfulfillment.com. And if you have additional questions, and we'll get back to you as well. For the summit, we have a giveaway that I know they've talked quite a bit about. However, let me just reiterate, we are offering $100 in free prep service to 2 attendees. Those that registered just to attend the summit, and then another person one person that registered to attend the summit one day, and then another offer for someone that has actually got the all access pass. So I'm really excited for your business and your expansion into Canada. It is phenomenal, and it really will whet your appetite for further expansion. Start with Canada. And where else will you go in the world? There's a lot of other countries to market your product, to sell your product. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks again for attending this session that I've called the Canada Strategy. Here's to a wonderful business expansion and an exciting future. Take care.